Welcome to In the Zone with Anthony, and y'all, I have to tell you, I believe that with the idea that's going on in my head, this by far may be one of my best podcasts put together, as I've been going over this, and for no other reason, this one might get more play than most, because this past Saturday was another edition of Bedlam. And as far as schedule, it was probably the last scheduled Bedlam. And what is Bedlam? Well, that would be OU against Oklahoma State. I do know some people that attended Oklahoma State that I'm very close and dear with. At the same time, I also have some family members that are staunch OU fans, and we have a little friendly banter back and forth. But what I want to do right now is I want to give you some highlights of sorts, because it was a very entertaining game, and if you are an OSU fan, you're kind of puffing your chest out, and I'll tell you why. Because last time OSU won this game, something transpired, and something was already in the making, and once again, OSU comes out with another signature victory over the beloved OU Boomer Sooners. So here come these highlights as we get you ready to talk about Bedlam.
Because of no gain on first down. Here's Gordon again. Jump cut in the hole. Busts it to the outside. And Gordon diving for the end zone. Touchdown, Oklahoma State. And a big hole here off the right side. Sawchuck into Oklahoma State territory. And the Cowboys won't catch him. A 64-yard touchdown run by Gavin Sawchuck. Rodney and Ryder. And the ball is on the ground as they were trying to pitch it back. And recovered by Oklahoma State. Oklahoma State, negative play on first down. Bowman running on second down. Inside the 5. Bowman in for the Oklahoma State touchdown.
To prepare these players for this environment all week in practice.
Gabriel throwing, end zone wide open, touchdown. Drake Stoops, who lined up in the backfield, and Oklahoma State never located him, and the Sooners are within 4. Again, Jeff Levy, the play caller. Play action pass. Gabriel setting up, gets drilled as he launches it downfield into double coverage, and it's picked off. Intercepted by Dylan Smith, bringing it back to the 35 for Oklahoma State.
Dylan Gabriel makes him pay.
And they run Tawee Walker, his first touch of the game, and he's into the end zone to give Oklahoma the lead. 23-yard Sooner touchdown. Instead of basically the ball at the same spot. 4th penalty on this drive by OU. Gordon, end zone. Oklahoma State leads it.
And there you heard it. Those words that OU fans are going to have to live with unless they find a way to keep the series going. Oklahoma State wins it. Think about how that sounds. Oklahoma State wins it. So, Mike Gundy, Oklahoma State coach, didn't even bother trying to downplay the importance of beating Oklahoma Sooners. Not one bit. Oklahoma State coach Mike Gundy didn't even bother trying to downplay the importance of beating Oklahoma on Saturday. Ollie Gordon II ran for 137 yards and 2 touchdowns, and Oklahoma State defeated 10th-ranked Sooners 27-24 in the last scheduled Bedlam rivalry game before the Sooners leave the Big 12 for the Southeastern Conference next year. It's a big game, Gundy said, and it's good for the Oklahoma State people to finish Bedlam with a win, period. Jubilant Oklahoma State fans rushed the field as time ran out, and All I Do Is Win by DJ Khaled blared over the sound system. They lingered on the field as songs such as Friends in Low Places by Oklahoma State graduate Garth Brooks played. They took down the east goalpost and carried pieces in various directions around Boone Pickens Stadium. Well, at least they didn't find a lake to throw it in like KU fans do when they win big games. Gundy told the players to be proud. The one thing they should remember, these are special moments, and the one thing that they can take with them for the rest of their life is the thrill that they gave the fans out here in this game, he said. Gundy claimed his 100th Big 12 coaching win, joining Bob Stoops and Bill Snyder as the only lead coaches to reach that mark. It was just his fourth victory in 19 tries against the Sooners. But let me add the importance of that win. The last time they beat OU, Lincoln Riley, along with some staff members and some key players, packed up and went out west. This time, as they beat them, OU is making their exit, going to the SEC. What a way to usher them out of the Big 12. If there's one guy that I know is happy about right now, is Big 12 Commissioner Brett Yormark. The only thing that would have made him even happier is if K-State would have sealed the deal and completed the comeback and beat Texas. But anyway, Gordon, who entered the day as the nation's leading rusher, had a career-high 33 carries. It was his sixth straight game rushing for at least 100 yards. Alan Bowman passed for 334 yards. Rashad Owens had career highs of 10 catches for 136 yards. And Brendan Presley caught 8 passes for 97 yards for the Cowboys, 7-2, 5-1, number 22 in the CFP. The game was about more than bragging rights. Both teams started the day as part of a 5-way tie for the conference lead. Dylan Gabriel passed for 344 yards. Drake Stoops had career highs of 12 catches for 134 yards, and Gavin Sawchuk ran for a career high 111 yards, and he scored for the Sooners, 7-2, 4-2, number 9 in the CFP. I'm really hurt for our guys, Oklahoma coach Brent Venable said. They really laid it on the line. We didn't always play great today. We had too many critical mistakes against a good football team. But I love the fight, the grit of the team to give ourselves a chance at the end. The home crowd chanted Gordon's name before he broke loose for a 20-yard touchdown run on the game's opening drive. Sawchuk answered with a 64-yard touchdown run on the third play of Oklahoma's opening drive, and the game was tied. Bowman's 13-yard touchdown run on the first play of the second quarter put Oklahoma State up 14-7, and a field goal by Alex Hale 5 minutes later made it 17-7. Stoops' 6-yard touchdown reception cut Oklahoma State lead to 17-14, a score they'd held up until halftime. It was the first time Oklahoma trailed at the break this season. Tawee Walker took off for a 23-yard touchdown run on his first carry of the game to put the Sooners up 21-17 in the third. Gordon looked to throw early in the fourth quarter, but he floated a ball short towards Owens. Oklahoma's Billy Bowman picked it off and ran it back 39 yards to the Oklahoma 44. Oklahoma couldn't take advantage, and Gordon made up for his mistake. His 1-yard touchdown run put the Cowboys up 24-21 with 7:59 remaining. Oklahoma had a low snap on the first play of the next drive, and Gabriel couldn't get a handle on it. Oklahoma State's Cody Walterscheid recovered at the Oklahoma 20, and Hill's 34-yard field goal put the Cowboys up 27-21. Oklahoma's Zach Schmidt made a 36-yard field goal to cut the margin to 3 with 4:48 to go. The Sooners got the ball back one more time, down 27-24. But Stoops was stopped short after a fourth down catch near midfield, and they turned it over on downs. It hurts and it stings right now, but we're not going to change our approach, Stoops said. We have a process, and we trust our process. We're going back to work tomorrow, putting the game to bed, getting the film watched, and getting ready for our next opponent, which is West Virginia. So what are the takeaways? Oklahoma, each of the Sooners' past 4 games have been decided by 5 points or fewer. They won the first 2 against Texas and Central Florida. They have lost the past 2 to Kansas and now Oklahoma State, and now may need to reset their goals. Oklahoma State, the Cowboys continue to find ways to take advantage of teams overloading to stop Gordon. Bowman fell just short of his career-high yardage total, and the Cowboys finished with 480 total yards. Poll implications. Oklahoma State will jump into the top 25. Oklahoma will drop, but likely not too far with a road loss against a hot team. Up next, Oklahoma hosts West Virginia on Saturday. Oklahoma State visits UCF on Saturday. So there you have a look at what transpired between Oklahoma and Oklahoma State. And the question still remains, could this be the final Bedlam as we know it? Or will the two sides try to find some way to continue this? For the state of Oklahoma, let's hope this was not the last game. Hopefully, they find some way to make this happen. Let's just hope legislature like Kentucky versus Louisville doesn't take place. Let's hope they find a way to make this happen. This is one of the best rivalries in college football. That includes, on par even with Oklahoma and Texas, the annual Red River rivalry, Red River Showdown, Red River Shootout, whatever you want to call it. I think Bedlam is right up there with it, regardless of what the team's records are. So I would like to hear from you fans. Do y'all think this series should continue? That's something to think about. Tell you what I'm going to do right here. I am going to take a break. And when I come back, we'll talk some more about Bedlam and how Bedlam started. Right here in the zone with yours truly, Anthony Smith. Welcome back to In the Zone with yours truly, Anthony Smith, and we are doing a little deep dive into Bedlam. Some have asked, where did Bedlam originate from? Well, the term Bedlam comes from the name of a hospital in London, St. Mary of Bethlehem, which was devoted to treating the mentally ill in the 1400s. Over time, the pronunciation of Bethlehem morphed into Bedlam, and the term came to be applied to any situation where pandemonium prevails. So let's take a look at Bedlam, the definition, as it is in some dictionaries. Bedlam is a scene of madness, chaos, or great confusion. If you allow football fans onto the field after the big game, it will be pure Bedlam. And I already told you that term Bedlam comes from the name of a hospital in London, St. Mary of Bethlehem. The trading, of course, I'm going to go ahead and give it to you again. It says, which was devoted to treating the mentally ill in the 1400s. Over time, the pronunciation of Bethlehem morphed into Bedlam, and the term came to be applied to any situation where pandemonium prevails. The trading floor at the New York Stock Exchange appears to be Bedlam, but the traders insist it's organized chaos. So there are some references to what the word Bedlam means, how it originated. But now the story goes that a newspaper reporter from a wrestling match in OSU's historic Gallagher Hall, now Gallagher Iba Arena, and said, "It's Bedlam in there." OSU's first football victory over the Sooners was a 9-0 win in 1917, and the old Central Bell was heard around campus and community. So, Bedlam refers to Oklahoma State University's in-state rivalry with the University of Oklahoma, which has produced many classic battles in men's and women's sports. The rivalry has its roots in the school's prestigious wrestling programs. OSU has won 34 NCAA titles. Let me say it again. OSU has won 34 NCAA titles. OU 7. The story goes that a newspaper reporter emerged from a wrestling match in OSU's historic Gallagher Hall, now Gallagher-Iba Arena, and said, "It's Bedlam in there." OSU's first football victory over the Sooners was 9-0 win in 1917, and the old Central Bell was heard around campus and community. OU students took the bell clapper from the tower during OSU's 7-0 homecoming victory over the Sooners in 1932. The bell still rang as students used a sledgehammer to celebrate the victory. OSU students later reclaimed the clapper, but OU said it was a clapper from a Norman church, not the old Central one. In 1966, a compromise was made, and the bell clapper that once hung in the bell of Old Central became the symbolic trophy in the Bedlam football game. The tradition of the bell clapper continues today, but in a different form. A crystal ball goes to the Bedlam winner in each sport and the winner of the overall series. So there you have a little bit of brief history on Bedlam and how it originated and how it came to be and what it stands for today. Now what I want to do is I want to kind of shift around, because there's a guy, sometimes he gets on my last nerve, but sometimes he says some things that stops and make me listen. It's no secret, I'm a Dallas Cowboys fan. Of course, I don't take it so personal that it's the end of the world for me, okay? You know, some people, they're so gung-ho, you know, we need to replace Dak, and we will never win a Super Bowl with Dak. Every loss is Dak Prescott's fault. Come on, give me a break. I'm going to still stand on this until I can't stand on it no more. Football is still played 11 on 11. When I hear narratives like, well, Dak got beat by Brock Purdy. No, the Cowboys got beat by the 49ers. Dak almost led a comeback against Jalen Hurts. No, the Cowboys' comeback bid fell up short against the Philadelphia Eagles. The only time you can say Dak got beat by Jalen Hurts is if you put them in a boxing match and let them go one-on-one. Then you can say Jalen Hurts beat Dak or Dak beat Jalen Hurts. But at the end of the day, there's 11 guys on offense, 11 guys on defense, and each and every last one of them has an assignment. Football is not played one-on-one, 1-on-11. It's your best 11 against their best 11, and may the best team win. I have spoken. But I want to see what Stephen A. has to say, because Stephen A. is actually optimistic about the Cowboys, which that is something I find hard to believe. But let's hear what Stephen A. has to say. Well, Stephen A. ain't saying anything.
Shannon, believe it or not, I'm going to say yes. I'm going to say yes, Shannon. I'm going to say yes. It's not about moral victories. It's about the fact that you don't look at the Cowboys over the last couple of weeks in which Dak Prescott has thrown 7 touchdowns and just 1 interception and say their struggles are because of him. See, to me, it comes down to him. And to me, if you're out there and you're throwing interceptions or you're finding a way to wet the bed and coming up small, that's a different animal. I didn't see that yet Sunday. I was at the game. You see the tight end, Shoemaker. This dude, get your knee down. Get in the end zone, okay? That can't be on Dak. Dak is running for his life. I know you got on him for stepping a foot out, a half inch out of bounds and not being pigeon-toed or whatever. But that brother Brandon Graham was coming after him. That's a big boy chasing him. He's trying to get the hell up in there, out of there. That's what happened with that. Those are the kind of things that transpire. We get all of that. I'm just looking at CeeDee Lamb and how he's developing. I'm looking at the defense, which is real. I'm looking at the suspect play within the NFC conference. I'm even looking at the Eagles with Jalen Hurts. Not 100%. That is problematic. The Eagles secondary, not as elite as it was last year. That's problematic. We saw what happened to the Lions against the Ravens. We saw what happened in Seattle against the Ravens. We've seen what happened with the San Francisco 49ers over the last month. And all of a sudden, Brock Purdy looks human. I'm just looking at it from that standpoint, and I'm saying, excuse me, the Dallas Cowboys are here in the mix. Do I believe they will win? Hell no. I wouldn't admit it if I did. In no way on earth do I believe that the Dallas Cowboys are going to do that. But to sit up here and to act like they're not legit, bona fide contenders, particularly against the rest of the NFC, I can't say that.
Wow. Can you believe Stephen A. has something nice to say about the Cowboys? And just like me, he didn't pile all of that on Dak Prescott. Let me put it out here. Does Dak Prescott make his share of mistakes, and sometimes untimely mistakes, in critical parts of the game? Of course he does. But let me ask you this question. What quarterback doesn't do that at some point? Heck, even Patrick Mahomes, as great as he is, doesn't look so Patrick Mahomes this year, does he? Patrick Mahomes is having issues trusting his receivers outside of, what's the guy? Taylor Swift's boyfriend. Did I just say that? I sure did say that. But, yes, outside of Travis Kelce, they even brought back, what's the guy's name? Mecole Hardman. And that hasn't helped any. My theory with Kansas City, as we speaking on them, I told some guys this on the radio show the other day, and I'm going to stand by this as well, too. Patrick Mahomes just need to grab his receivers, put in some extra work after practice, some extra work before practice, grab a couple of guys, grab your best defenders, and let's go do some 7-on-7 drills. And my receivers, I'm going to build some chemistry with y'all through these 7-on-7 drills. Yes, I know there's a difference between playing 7-on-7 and playing 11-on-11 against opposition in a different color uniform. I get all of that. But here we are, halfway through the season, almost, pretty much halfway through the season, and you're still having trust issues with your receivers. Something needs to be worked out. Oh, another thing they're having problems with their offensive line. I believe it's the right side of that offensive line. Patrick Mahomes doesn't trust that either. So maybe you need to grab, like I say, get you a 7-on-7, get you those offensive linemen that you don't trust, and put in some extra work after practice. Say, this is what we're going to do. This is how we're going to do it. I'm the leader of this team, and instead of me griping about it and complaining about it, we're going to put in some work, we're going to put in some extra work, and we're going to work this thing out. That's my solution for the Kansas City Chiefs. You may agree with it. You may not agree with it. Doesn't matter. Everybody's entitled to their opinion. Everybody's entitled to their thoughts. There's no right answer. There's no wrong answer. That's just my opinion on solving the Chiefs problem. Am I a Chiefs fan? No, I can't say that I am. But do I have any out against being against the Chiefs? No, I don't. They're not a rival to my Cowboys. My beef has always been known as the Washington Redskins. I still can't get over the fact that they're not the Redskins. They're now the Commanders. That name just doesn't resonate well with me. But it goes back to what I'm saying. All quarterbacks at some point in junction of a game make critical mistakes. Even Joe Burrow has made his share. But now you see he's catching fire. Josh Allen, Mr. Do Everything, Mr. Hero, Mr. Superman to the rescue. Sometimes he finds out what his kryptonite is. It happens. It just so happened to be that the most scrutinized position in all the sports outside of the center fielder for the New York Yankees is the quarterback position for the Dallas Cowboys. You put that helmet on with that star on both sides and your position says QB, you run down the list of names. Don Meredith, Roger Staubach, Danny White, Troy Aikman, Tony Romo. The list goes on. As soon as you put that helmet on, the temperature rises an extra 10 to 20 degrees more than any other position in all of football. Why? Because that's the attention that the Cowboys command. Win, lose, or draw, the hottest selling merchandise on a year in and year out basis is usually Cowboy merchandise. Anyway, I'm going to take another break. When I come back,
that's just me
I will take this a different direction. I don't know what direction we're going, but we'll be going in some direction. Maybe look at some more football around the NFL and college football. But anyway, stay locked in the zone with yours truly, Anthony Smith. Be right back. Welcome back to In the Zone with Anthony. Another informative and entertaining In the Zone podcast. Only as I can do it. So, since the theme has been college football, we're going to keep it that as we begin to take a dive into questions that are facing the CFP committee before the second rankings are revealed. And I am pretty sure that at the time of this, the rankings hadn't been revealed, but I'm pretty sure they have been revealed, which I will get back into it most likely on Wednesday. But by the time some of you get this podcast, it will be Wednesday, which means when I record my Wednesday show, you'll probably get it late Wednesday evening, early Thursday morning. But it is what it is, and I hope that you are thoroughly entertained and informed as to what's going on. So, the second ranking could be very easy for the college football playoff. But there is one guy, though, who always seems to have an insight on things. Although some people may like him, some people may not like him. You can't discredit the work that he does. And that guy that I'm talking about is none other than Paul Finebaum. Excuse me for butchering his name. It's not like he's going to hear this, but if he does, excuse me anyway. But Paul Finebaum always has an interesting take on things. And before I get into this story, I want to let you hear what one Paul Finebaum has to say, because, like I say, there are a lot of people out there that have their opinions on things, but he seems to be the one that they really go to when they want an answer. Kind of like Adam Schefter, Steve Wojnarowski. He's in that upper echelon. So let's just see what he has to say.
All right, it's time for your teams to watch with your rank and files starting at 4. Who are your top teams, plus a team to file away for later?
Well, we'll start at 4 with Florida State. Again, they struggle a little bit and then put the opponent away. Yesterday was Pittsburgh. They have Miami coming in. That's not going to really get their attention. They really have a cakewalk, maybe to the ACC championship game. At number 3, and this is a struggle here because Michigan may look like the best team in the country, but at some point they're going to have to start playing real teams and quit playing company industrial league teams on Thursday night because it's getting tiresome watching them beating up on a bunch of cream puffs. Ohio State always struggles and always wins big. You have to give them credit. They played a very tough schedule, and they have some more games to go, including Michigan at the end of the year. And what about Georgia? They don't look pretty, but they win effectively. They had a very good opponent yesterday. They'll have an even better one against Ole Miss this week. The File team could have been anyone. I chose Washington because of what happened yesterday against Southern Cal. That was such an amazing performance, but it could have been Oregon, it could have been Alabama, but Washington remains undefeated for now.
So there you have the words of one Paul Feinbaum, and his top four are, if you want to be technical, he threw in a fifth team. So now what we're going to do, we're going to get into this scenario here because there are some takeaways. So the second ranking could be very easy for the College Football Playoff Selection Committee after its top 8 teams all won in Week 10. It's not always that simple, though, when the committee begins each week with a blank sheet of paper. And what happened last year does not matter. You can say that again when you look at the top 4. That's why the back-to-back defending national champs weren't the committee's number 1 team in its initial ranking. Was number 2 Georgia's win against number 12 Missouri enough to change that in the committee's second of 6 rankings, unveiled at 7 p.m. Eastern Tuesday night on ESPN? Maybe. Though Ohio State is still ranked number 1 in ESPN's strength of record metric, which means the average top 25 team would have the most difficult time achieving the same undefeated record against the Buckeyes opponents to this point. While there wasn't a lot of drama on the scoreboard, there are still several pressing questions facing the committee this week that at least have the potential to alter its second ranking. Number 1. Has Georgia done enough to unseat the Buckeyes? One of the most significant Week 10 results was Georgia's win against Missouri, which gave the Bulldogs their first victory against a CFP-ranked opponent. While Georgia added to its playoff resume, Ohio State did not, beating an unranked but improved Rutgers team on the road. The committee doesn't rank teams based on a weekly snapshot, though it will continue to compare Ohio State and Georgia based on their resumes to date. And assuming Penn State and Notre Dame are still top 25 wins, the Buckeyes will still edge Georgia with their schedule strength. It didn't help Ohio State that Notre Dame dropped to 3 losses after losing at Clemson, which is a 4-loss team. It also didn't help Georgia that Florida lost at home to Arkansas, and the Gators are now a 4-loss team. One of the reasons Georgia was number 2 and ahead of Michigan last week was because the committee valued its wins against Kentucky and Florida more than any opponents the Wolverines had defeated. And you heard Paul Feinbaum say they have to stop playing industrial named schools. Wow. If that's not a slap to the face of the Big Ten. Another consideration is how valuable the win against Missouri was, and that will be determined in part by how far the Tigers fall tonight. If Georgia earns a promotion to the top spot Tuesday, it would most likely be justified by the committee deeming the Bulldogs a better team while citing Ohio State's first-half struggle at Rutgers. They'd have to explain, though, how that was different than Georgia's first-half struggles against Missouri's. Well, I can explain that. Rutgers is not ranked. They may be on the outside of those others receiving votes, but Missouri was ranked number 12. There's a big difference between where your teams are ranked. It makes a big difference if you're on the outside of the rankings looking in as opposed to on the inside of the rankings, as is the case with Missouri, who came in ranked number 12, and Rutgers, who was on the outside as receiving votes. Doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure that one out. Number 2, will Washington crack the top 4? Washington's October 14 win against Oregon arguably is the best in the country, but it wasn't enough to impress the committee last week. only difference this week is that Washington bolstered this case Saturday with a double-digit road win at number 20 USC. The question is how much the committee values that win now that the Trojans are a 3-loss team. Washington's pedestrian performances in wins against Arizona State, 2-7, and Stanford, 3-6, are why the committee put the Huskies at number 5 in its first ranking. While it was another offensive clinic for Washington against USC, the defense allowed at least 30 points for the second straight week. None of the undefeated teams above Washington lost. So, if the Huskies move up, it would be because of the road win against a ranked CFP team. Number 3. Is Oregon still the top 1-loss team? This is a question only because Alabama now has 3 top 25 wins against Ole Miss, Tennessee, and now LSU. Oregon has 1 statement win, October 28th, at Utah. The Ducks have been one of the most complete teams in the country, and the committee has and will continue to honor Washington's head-to-head win against Oregon as long as the Huskies stay undefeated. Will the committee continue to do the same for Texas, which beat Alabama by double digits in Tuscaloosa in week 2? It would be surprising if it didn't, which would leave teams ranked 5 through 8 in the same order. But Alabama has made significant strides against ranked competition in back-to-back weeks. It also has a better resume than Texas, save for, of course, its loss to the Longhorns. The Tide are number 4 in strength of record, while Texas follows at number 5. That could at least generate some debate in the room as to whether the Tide should be any higher. Number 4. Does Ole Miss have a shot at the playoff? The Rebels are a long shot to win the SEC, but if they run the table and finish with 1 loss, they will at least get some consideration. Winning the division will be extremely difficult, even if the Rebels run the table, because they still need Alabama to lose twice. That's unlikely to happen, considering Alabama plays 2 unranked SEC opponents, Kentucky and Auburn, and ESPN's Football Power Index gives the Tide at least an 80% chance to win the game. If Ole Miss beats Georgia on Saturday, though, it will have the best win in the country plus 2 other wins against ranked opponents in LSU and Tulane. A win Saturday would be even more impressive considering it's in Athens. According to ESPN Analytics, Ole Miss has a 31% chance to beat Georgia and a 26% chance to finish 11-1. If that scenario unfolds, Ole Miss will have a 23% chance to reach the playoff, according to the All-State Playoff Predictor. So much of that, though, depends on what happens in the other Power 5 conference championship games and how the SEC title game unfolds. If Georgia were to win the SEC and Ole Miss beat the SEC champs, that's a serious conversation for the committee. Saturday's opportunity against Georgia gives Ole Miss the best chance of any of the teams hovering around the top 10. Louisville has an outside chance if it runs the table and wins. Louisville has an outside chance if it runs the table and wins the SEC. No, Louisville is not in the SEC. Louisville is in the ACC, I do believe. They're definitely not in the SEC. But an 11-1 Ole Miss without an SEC title would have a better resume than a 12-1 Louisville that won the ACC. There it is. Number 5. Is LSU the committee's top 3-loss team? Now we're talking 3-loss teams. I do not see this happening. LSU is a critical common opponent for both Florida State and Alabama, which both beat the Tigers, and need to win to continue to impress the committee. It's also impactful to Ole Miss. See number 4. Well, see the info. You could go back and listen to the podcast as they were the number 4 scenario. Well, actually, they weren't. Yes, they were. They were part of the number 4 scenario. Does Ole Miss have a shot at the playoffs? So just rewind the podcast if you want to see the reference to that. Anyway, LSU still ranks number 16 in strength of record, the highest of any 3-loss team. If LSU is the committee's top 3-loss team as expected, where does Notre Dame 7-3 land? Ohio State should have a top 10 win against Penn State, but how will the committee value its close road win against the Irish? The Irish are number 22 in strength of record metric, the second highest ranking of any 3-loss team behind LSU. So there's a lot to unpack, and I'm glad I'm not on that committee. Because what you see right now in the top 4 could be just like where I'm from. I'm from the state of Kansas, where you may be listening to this podcast. If you don't like the weather, they say, stick around about 15, 20 minutes. It'll change. That's how I view the college football playoff ranking. If you don't like the way it is right now, stick around a week or so. It will change. Yes, I would cherish your comments as to what do you think of this college football playoff scenario and the way things could actually shape out. Are you on board with the top 4 teams, or do you think it should be someone else? Well, that's going to do it for this edition of In the Zone with Anthony. I hope you have enjoyed it. Like I say, I will be back in the seat probably tomorrow evening. Right now it's kind of hard to tell. I got some scheduling conflicts. I know I will definitely be back on Thursday as I will have more time. But whatever the case may be, I want you to always stay locked in the zone. And until the next time, always stay locked in the zone. Yours truly, Anthony Smith. I'm out. Peace.